What's up, everybody? Welcome. We are here today with Gui Agustini, who is the voice of Roberto in X-Men 97. How's it going, Guy?
Doing great, man. I'm very excited to be here. Finally, it's happening after we getting to meet up in Chicago a few
Yeah,
weeks ago, and then here we are, man. Your videos are awesome. I keep seeing them pop up on my Instagram, and kudos to you, man.
appreciate it. Appreciate it. How's your day been? How you doing?
Good, man. Back in LA, back on the grind, and been traveled a lot the last few weeks, and no, it's good to be back.
Yeah, I was to say that's great. I'm traveling's fun. Traveling's fun.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's tiring too. You always need to and it
yeah,
wasn't just like a vacation kind of trip, but yeah, sometimes we need a break and a vacation from the actual trips we take, but it's all
yeah.
good.
How did you get your start in acting? Um, this career.
Ooh, yeah. I'll give you the uh, Reader's Digest version. I think it's what we say
Yeah.
here, right?
Yeah.
No, well, it's because I used to I wanted to be a professional tennis player. So my journey started with tennis. I wanted to be an athlete,
Yeah.
and I 6 months before I actually came to the U.S. with a tennis scholarship, I was living in Venezuela. I lived there for almost 2 years, but the last 6 months I already had the scholarship, but I convinced my parents at the time that I wanted to stay an extra 6 months to improve my tennis. And at the same time be able to come to the US in August to start, because you guys start school in August, September, and in Brazil we start in February. So it's a little bit different. So I was like, I don't want to get in the middle. People know, in the middle of the year, people already know each other. So anyway, I think like 2 3 months in of that first 6 months of the year, I started modeling. By random dude at my gym that kind of convinced me to go and meet up those angels that sometimes come along, and so I did several modeling gigs. Like, I auditioned for some things that I had never done before, and I got cast right away, and so did some campaigns and did some runways, and eventually the agency sent me to an audition for a Subway commercial where I had to act, and I had never done that before. And also in Venezuela, we speak, they speak Spanish, but obviously each country in South America has their particular accent, and I was so used to speak with a lot of slangs.
Hmm.
Because that's how my coach spoke, and in Venezuela, it's kind of like very common.
Yeah.
And so they also said in the casting, no slangs, because that's something so normal for the Venezuelans. And so I was like, I can't speak because out of 4 words, three are slangs. Anyway, it was a horrible experience. Also, being my very first like acting experience auditioning, I mean, commercially,
Yeah.
specifically, that casting, like, often, I don't know there, but I guess there was different in general. But my experience in the U.S., you go to an audition, and most of the time you are going in the room by yourself. Especially, I mean, if it's like photos and print campaigns, maybe people are all together in the room. But when you get to act, you're like in the room with the casting people and stuff. But in this case, everybody was waiting in line. Everybody was watching each other. It was even more nerve wracking. Anyway, uh, that was like the catalyst of me getting into acting, because I asked my agent there to recommend me to an acting class, and they did. And I thought it was just something that I was going to learn quick to literally be able to book these commercials because they paid more money. And
I
I
mean,
was recommended, fortunately, to this woman who actually studied in New York at the Actor Studio, famous for the method. And she worked, with professional actors, and it was a very intense process. And it was my first time seeing like actors emote, and the class was so like riveting, at the same time very scary. But I was really moved, and I begged her, because she didn't want to take me, because I was very honest. I'm a tennis player. I'm just here for a couple more months. But
yeah.
she did eventually. She's like, okay, you can join, because I told her, look, you tell me what to do, I'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
I've always been very committed, and so that's how I started. And I read my first Shakespeare plays in Spanish. I've always loved poetry, so that spoke to me. And then I did my first couple of exercises, and at the same time, I think maybe I don't know, maybe a few weeks later, a month later, I met this very known actor in Venezuela who took me under his wings and took me to another studio. So for 2 or 3 months before I left, I was at two different studios studying acting. So I would train in the morning with my coach, and the afternoon I was in acting class.
Wow.
I just kind of like also that particular actor was also another angel in my life, instilled in me like a seed that maybe this was the path I was meant to take. And so when I got to the U.S., I fortunately enough also my school, the university in Greenwood, South Carolina, a very small town called Lander University,
Yep.
which you
I
know,
know.
I just went back 15 years later
Mm-hmm.
to speak to the students and everything and be part of their film festival as a judge. They had a theater program, which they don't anymore, and I joined. I had to become a minor in theater to be able to take the acting class, and I did. And I did my very first play. Monique Bagwell cast me in my very first play ever, playing the lead of this play called Picnic by William Minges, and I was nominated for this award called Irene Ryan. So it was kind of like very crazy, but obviously all these steps were very important for me to realize. Oh, maybe this is the way to go. I was so new. I had never acted in my life. I don't have, in my family anybody who was really in the entertainment industry in any way. I just loved movies growing up, watching it with my dad specifically.
Mm-hmm.
And so, little by little, like all these steps kept reassuring me that, um, maybe that's the way to go. And the final kind of like big step was that after a year in South Carolina, I was going to be I was going to transfer to a bigger school in Tennessee that had a bigger theater program. But I went to Miami for the summer to take acting classes in Spanish in particular, and with more like professional studios, because I felt like I came out of like a very intense journey with tennis, with like professionals and stuff like that. And so I felt that though, I had great experiences, like I said, at Lander and stuff, I felt like people were now really like training to be in the NBA or the NFL, right? And so from tennis, I'm training to be at the U.S. Open. So I went to Miami for the summer, took a bunch of acting classes. In fact, my very first workshop in English was with Mr. Aaron Spicer, who at the time I'm not sure about now. He has a studio here in LA, but which I've gone a couple of times. But Aaron Spicer at the time had been Will Smith's coach for every single movie has ever done,
Wow.
and also coached J Lo and Gerard Butler, a bunch of stars. And so I was like, whoa! I'm like,
That's right.
and I'm listening for the first time, learning about the Uta Hagen process. Uta, is a very known, teacher from back in the day, who was also an actress. And so there's a very specific methodology that she taught, and that's what, Spicer teaches basically. And so anyway, I was like, oh my God. And also like I'm in Miami, it's a big town, that's what I'm used to. And I was also taking a lot of acting classes in Spanish. So 2 or like maybe not even a month after taking these workshops, I'm like, "Ah, I want to be here. I want to study with these guys. I don't want to go back to college in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And I knew tennis wasn't, it was only going to serve my life at that time as a means to getting education, and as a means to helping my parents, pay for the education through a scholarship. But I decided that I didn't want to do that, and I was very well supported, and I stayed in Miami, and I just studied in these classes, in these courses, and I did a associate's degree. So I quit tennis I didn't go to, Tennessee, and I stayed in Miami, and I got my associate's degree in theater performance just so I had something to say. But my focus was studying in these acting schools, which were all very important in my, beginning of my beginnings, basically, as an actor.
What has been your favorite role so far, other than Sunspot? What has been your favorite
Ooh.
role? You know.
Yeah. Well, I really think that though short-lived, the the tennis player role that I did last year in the CBS show called Elsbeth was really special just because of what I just told you. Tennis was the
Yeah.
igniter and catalyst of my life in many ways, and so getting cast at this new show at the time, getting to play a professional athlete or a tennis player who
Right.
was like the Nadal of that world.
Mhm.
It was super special, and I got to work with incredible people. I unfortunately didn't have scenes um, with Carrie, who's the lead of the show. But I got to meet really my co-stars and Blair Underwood, the legend, and it was really awesome, and getting to be in a stadium that was supposed to feel like a U.S. Open. It was
Yeah.
pretty neat. So yeah, I think I'd say that one also, I guess it's my most recent work anyway. But I'll give you like a second one that it's part of. As you know, I'm a filmmaker as well, and I create a lot of my own work. For the last 10 years, I've been doing short films, and I right before actually I auditioned. I had a callback for this Elsbeth show when I was starting to record to film the last one called the last short film I did called West Texas Home, and so that I just finally finished like a couple days ago, and literally after we finish here our talk, I'll be submitting to our very first two festivals. So I'm really excited. It's a beautiful story, and I'm very, very proud of the work I did, both as an actor and a director. I think it's my strongest work in all round. And so that role, it's though also, it's a short film. It's like 15 minutes, but there was a lot of preparation. There was a lot of intensity, and I'll cherish those moments forever. And so I think those two, very different, TV network and very independent short film. I think those two are my most um, no, what's the word you use? Not important, but the most
Important.
uh, yeah, or like the roles that I cherish the most, I guess.
Yeah. How did you get the role of Sunspot, Roberto? Because we all want to know that story, obviously. So,
Yeah. Well, it was through an audition, through the
right.
agency that represents me, that I'm very fortunate to be, a part of, and um, I yeah, I actually auditioned for it twice. I don't know. I mean, when that happens, it's probably who knows. There's many possibilities of why, but I remember when I got the second audition, or the second time. I remembered I had already read for that role, or those lines. I think they were exactly the same. But anyway, it came to me in the fall of 2021, and then the
Wow.
second time spring of 2022. Um,
Wow.
and both times, I mean, they asked me to read with a neutral accent, or my normal accent, and with a Brazilian accent. So I did both versions.
Hmm.
And like both times, I never knew it was X-Men 97. I had no clue of whatsoever.
Hmm.
I just, was excited that, there's several Brazilians here in Los Angeles and the US,
Hmm.
but it's a smaller pool, and so when something Brazilian comes along, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
there's I have a chance, I have more chance,
Mhm. Right.
and so, but you like any audition, like I send it out, and then I never think about it anymore. Because the odds, like I like to say, are never in our favor. And so our job really is to do our best in that moment, to enjoy the process as much as we can, and then let it go. This is like the art of uh, detachment or non-attachment, um, because you can't overthink it too much,
Right.
and as when you're doing this for as long as I have, and um, you get used to, especially in the voiceover world, you just send it into the ether, and then
Yep.
you mostly won't hear anything back, and you just like on to the next and on to the next, and so, but in this case, it was nice to receive it for the second time. I'm like, oh, I don't remember if I went back to. I don't think I did. I don't think I went back to. Maybe I did. Maybe I did find the file to listen what I did, and maybe I'll try something a little bit different. Who knows?
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I sent it in, and it was like about 2 months later that I got an email from my agent just saying, "Congratulations, you're going to be a superhero." And I was like, "What?" I was
What?
so
Yeah.
surprised. I was obviously happy. I mean, booking anything is already amazing, but like a superhero, I don't
Mm.
remember auditioning for a superhero. So I continued reading, and then in the contract it said X-Men, and I was like, "What? When did
Yeah.
I audition for this?"
Yeah.
Um, and then that's how it happened. Yeah,
It's amazing. I mean,
yeah.
I love.
And
Did
so
you?
you see, right? Because like I think I was the last one to really join the cast because they've been recording since 2021, as far as
Wow.
I know. Yeah, yeah,
Dang. So they've been recording for a long time, and it didn't come out till like maybe like 3 years later.
yeah. It was, yeah. It came out
Yeah.
last year in March 2024. I don't know exactly when they did their first session, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was March 2021 or even before that.
Dang. That's
Yeah,
crazy. I mean, I know it makes sense though because animation takes time.
yeah. It
Like
takes a lot of time,
especially with the
especially
way
that
that
level of animation.
yes, that and we don't get enough 2D animation nowadays, I feel like. It's very like, we have like all the Disney movies are 3D now, like Pixar and all those are all 3D. I'm like, okay, we finally have something 2D animated and I appreciate that. Um so I love
Yeah,
that.
you know that a lot because you are an animator
Hmm.
major
Yep.
graduate, right? So
Yes, I have an associate's degree. If Roberto could team up with an Avenger, any other X-Men or Fantastic Four member, pretty much anyone that's going to be in Avengers Doomsday, who would it be and why? Because I have to know this after seeing that
oh,
cast
I
announcement. I
know
was
that.
like, who would he be so cool? Other than like Human Torch, who
I
would
know, but that was my answer. That is my answer. Human Torch. Human Torch. And
makes
I'll tell you why. Well, I'll tell you why. The why, I guess it's very obvious. Look, even the shirt I'm wearing today, right? You are fire. It's all about the fire.
right?
I'm all about the fire. So I think it'd be really cool to have them combined. But I think what really sparked the decision for that answer happened a few weeks ago. I think it was at another podcast interview that I was doing, and I was asked if uh, if Sunspot were to fight Human Torch, who was going to be the winner. And obviously, like I was like, I'm always going to side, to Roberto, to my guy.
Yeah,
But
I
I went
mean,
online. I went online because people know more about all the insides and stuff, and I know about the games, and
yeah,
some of my friends play the mobile game. The Sunspot is really strong and stuff like
he
that,
is.
and
Yeah.
right.
Hmm.
And so I watched a lot of different, not a lot, but several different videos on YouTube and stuff, and everybody said, and also online, Reddit and all this stuff, that Sunspot is like the winner, and like if they
Yeah.
were to go up against each other.
Hmm.
So like here we go. But I think in this case it'd be nice to have them team up, and
Yeah.
so they'd be one like hell of a fire streak, man. So
Yeah.
I think it'd be cool.
I mean, I've noticed that too. He's more like, physical fire. I've noticed Sunspot's more like that solar energy, type of deal. And I feel
Yeah.
like he'd be able to absorb that out of Human Torch at one point. Just be like, nope, you don't have fire anymore. Kind of like in Deadpool and Wolverine, what Pyro did to Human Torch. He kind of just took
Oh,
it
right.
right out of him.
Right. Right. Right.
Um,
Right.
it's like that would be pretty interesting. I do have a follow-up question.
Yeah.
If you can't say anything, you can't say anything, okay? I don't want to put a target on your back. Um, have you heard the rumor about the X-Men 97 universe being connected to Avengers Doomsday?
Oh yeah, I did hear that. Yeah, I did
And
hear that. I
it's,
read it, or it was on Instagram or something.
mhm.
Um,
I think
yeah, I mean,
Lenore posted it.
huh?
I think Lenore posted about it, and I was like,
Oh, she was the one who posted it. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know, but
it's like
yeah,
this is
I did read it, and I think that's awesome. I hope it happens. I mean, anything that keeps shining
mhm,
more light to the X-Men, I think it's amazing. And yeah,
mhm. I mean, that would definitely be interesting, but I would also wonder because there have been rumors that these animated characters were going to be in Doomsday, but I was wondering, are we going to do live action or are we doing like Space Jam style?
yeah, I don't
You
know.
know, like
Yeah.
I mean, if they
I
were,
also, but I also read, and I don't know if you heard of this, and I don't know how much of a rumor it is, or,
mhm.
but that apparently Ryan Reynolds is already writing or is going to another Deadpool, but with the X-Men, not with Wolverine only. I'm like, what?
Yeah,
Like,
I
I don't
did
know.
hear about this, and I was like, that's gonna be interesting.
That's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, but would you be open to joining the cast of Avengers
Of
Doomsday?
course, we're open to anything. It's
Yeah,
like
I mean that would be insane.
that would be amazing.
I was over here going, I would know someone in the cast of Doomsday. That would be insane, and I'd be like super happy that you're in, happy for you, you know?
Oh, thank
Um,
you.
that'd
Thank
be
you.
incredible. I have to mention this. So my three favorite Marvel characters of all time are obviously Sunspot in the X-Men, Sunspot, Black Widow, and Shang-Chi. I don't know if you've seen that movie, but it's amazing.
Shang-Chi?
Yes, he is
I
a
don't.
oh,
Wow.
great movie. Great movie. It's
Really?
yeah, it's Simu Liu. He was in a show called Kim's Convenience. He was in Barbie.
Oh, he was in Barbie. Okay, when did that come out?
Shang-Chi came out in 2021, September.
Wow.
It's
Okay,
great.
well,
Fantastic.
I will watch it. You're convincing me.
But
Wow.
those three team up in a comic, and I need to find it because I'm like, okay,
Oh, they do?
all three of them. Yes. I'm like,
And
where
how come you don't know which comic that is?
I'm trying to find it. I was like, I'm gonna look up and see if I looked up and I was like, I wonder if Sunspot and Black Widow have ever teamed up or anything. And then I saw this picture and it was how at the beginning of comics it'll be like, hey, these are all the characters that are in this story. It showed
Yeah.
all of them, but it had Spider Woman too, and like I want to say Sentry, and like all sorts of other characters. And I was like, okay, what is this called?
And
So I'm like,
you couldn't Google to find out like what is the name of the con, like what was it?
I'm gonna hunt for it. I'm
Yeah,
definitely gonna
Hunt.
hunt for it. I'm like, I wonder.
Well, when you find it, please let me know as well. That's exciting.
I was like, dang, does Guy know that he's teamed up with Black Widow and like, Shang
Oh,
Chi?
I know very little about all those inside things, but I'm always
Yes.
learning because of you guys. So,
Hmm.
yes,
Very
let me
good.
know.
Yeah, very good comic I've read. Also, is called Avengers versus X Men. Very good. Um, they're deciding what to do with the Phoenix Force. It's pretty much Civil War, but with the Avengers and X Men. So, tell the viewers about Impakto, the company that you own and have been promoting. I would love for everybody to hear about what that is. If you could tell us about that.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate that, Nick. Impacto is, I co-founded with one of my best friends
Mhm.
back at, I think we launched over a year ago. And it sparked really, the idea came out of the SAG strike that we had in 2023, and, I was out of
Yeah.
work, and that's when I started, teaching tennis again and all that. But I've always wanted to have some sort of a product that I could promote on social media, that had the purpose of creating a positive impact in other people. And just because I'm a sucker for living your best life, or being as positive as you possibly can. Not in a toxic way, as people like to say. Not about me necessarily, but just don't vibe a lot with the whole uh, toxic positivity thing. I think you're either positive or you're negative, and that's it. But or you're like real or you're fake. But anyway, so that's how like it started, and my friend was also at the time looking for things to do online, and we started talking about ideas, um, and out of everything that we looked into, we decided to go into the market that we knew was very saturated, which is apparel, t-shirts and
Yeah.
hoodies. Primarily, we wanted to start with only hoodies. We knew we were going to be starting in the winter anyway, but knowing that eventually we were going to go, t-shirts, tanks, and all this stuff. And that's when we learned about Shopify. That's where how we go about this with our website. And it's been obviously a learning process. This is like a a side project, a passion project for us, for both him and I.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember the day that I spoke with him. Um, I couldn't after I couldn't sleep because I was so excited, and then we were already thinking about brand name ideas,
Hmm.
and because I was saying like I really want to have like one of my purposes in life. I think is to as a human being is to to leave the space that I come in better when I leave, and also like to as much as I can. I'm a human, obviously that doesn't happen all the time, but to be as conscientious as possible to have a positive impact in the all the relationships that I have, and all of my um, I'm I'm losing the word that I want to say, but relationship that you have with anybody, strangers or anything, and so um, uh, I kept thinking about it, and because a friend of mine at the time was working for Impact Theory, and I remember I think we had talked about it, like that name kind of like obviously I can't say like, that's a cool name, and but like I kept telling, I think I told him like I think it had Impact something, and
Hmm.
then my friend came like was like, what about Impacto, and because he's Italian, actually he's like not he's not Italian, he's Canadian, but he speaks Italian, and he has Italian
Yeah.
background, so it's like, oh, that could be interesting. I was like, well, I like that.
Mm.
And also because we're searching to see which companies and brands already have that name, and there's a
Yeah.
bunch of Impact and there's a bunch of Impacto too, but
Hmm.
that's why we chose to go with AKT to make it a little bit more. We're not the only ones, but uh, we're definitely, I think AKT and then O for Impacto. We might be the only one, or at least the way we spell it. But there are other Impacto companies. But the whole purpose also is because AKT means act, and so
Yeah.
we're also, our big part of our ethos is predicated on taking action. I actually just posted today. Many of us say we want something and desire something, but very few of us actually do it and take consistent action, right? So, myself included, for many things. But I'm very conscious, and I of it, and I want to be able to inspire people, and help as much as I can. And so
Right.
that's kind of like the how it all came about. And then at the same time, I'm like, how obviously, this is, I wanted to have cool messages, cool designs. My friend was like, I like to design stuff, and I like to have cool messages. So that's why our product so far, we try to have a cool design attached to it at the same time, with some sort of inspiring message, and slogans like limitless beginnings, because we believe a lot in the power of starting again. And it's never too late.
Yeah.
And the logo and all of that came out of my passion. It had nothing to do with Sunspot. I swear. I mean, I was already recording it, but because it's so like far in between,
Hmm.
like it was not in the forefront of my mind. I just always been, not always, but uh, I've been a lot, and I shared this a couple times. Like, there's a photo of me in 2020 when I was going through one of my biggest personal transformation in my life. That I moved from New York to Los Angeles, road tripping with a friend, and I took this photo. I think the first day, on the road, and I sent to a friend of mine and asked her to Photoshop a phoenix coming out of me, because I was rebirthing, and I
Yeah.
was literally down. I felt like I was down into ashes, and so I had to, it was like a new beginning. So
Mhm.
that's why, the logo is what it is this fire with a little phoenix inside. Whether you're wearing it, which I appreciated, Nick, has been a great supporter and lover of what we're about. And so that's what what it represents. But then before launching, I was like, oh, we need to. I wanted to find something, even a little extra that has
Yeah.
even more of a bigger impact, because everybody has t-shirts. Nobody needs a t-shirt. Nobody needs a hoodie, right?
Mhm.
So we decided to partner up in a way. I mean, it's all based on donations, but I had uh, volunteered a few times at the Midnight Mission here in Los Angeles, which is this incredible organization that works with the homeless here in
Yeah.
LA.
Yeah.
And they do an incredible job. And so I was like, what if we reach out to them and we donate part of our proceeds to them in order to help this cause that that also eventually we hope that one day we can actually donate a lot of apparel, because that's something that the
Yes.
homeless need. So
Hmm.
that's why we chose to go that route and not like my friend. I'm a lover of animals too, but my friend specifically who owns pets now and stuff, and he's like, oh, maybe like animal shelter and all of that. And I'm like, that's all great, but I think I personally, I now that I tend to gravitate more towards the humans first, but
Hmm.
also because I think our brand being what it is now, we uh, we have products for humans. I wanted to have
Right.
create to donate to an organization that works with the humans. So
Yeah.
if we ever have something for pets, which we thought of maybe one day having, maybe we also go to in that direction. But yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
What is the most impactful quote that you have ever read?
Wow, that
Put your
that is such a difficult question, because I am a sucker for quotes, and as you know from the Impakto Instagram, there's a bunch of quotes there because I've always loved them. I've listened to a lot of different like audiobooks and people, the mentors that I respect so much, and everybody has incredible things to say, and especially those that I relate to a lot, and that I believe in what they preach and what they bring to the table. I I've had so many that have been so important to me in my journey, quotes, but I will tell you three, because they're because I was also going to ask, is like what like in in which area of life, because I kind of like have different quotes for different things. But
Yeah.
anyway, I thought of like three different ones, um, that are, I think, a good mix. The
Yeah.
first one that came to mind, which is probably one of my most recent one, it's already been like 2 or 3 years, but that really has changed me deeply, and I can explain if you have questions or for whoever's watching here. But it goes like this:
Hmm.
pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. And so, because
Wow.
words can be, there's a lot of semantics in words. Also, as you know, I was born and raised in Brazil. This quote is actually a Brazilian quote that translates exactly the same in English, but people have different relations to the word suffering, and I had a very different relation to it. And in fact, very recently, maybe 2 3 days ago, I can't remember now if it was Jeremy Renner, because I don't know if you've seen like he's been, or at least in my feed, there's been a lot of like Jeremy Renner, yeah, yeah, reels coming up and podcasts, the little clips, because
Yes.
I didn't know, I didn't know that he
I
had been
saw
in
you
this
post it.
accident. Oh,
Yes.
I
I saw
shared,
you
right?
Yeah, I saw you posted on your story. He was in that scary snow accident.
Right, right. And
Yeah.
so, and so I can't remember if it was him. It might not be him at all. But
Mhm.
somebody was talking about suffering
Mhm.
in a very positive way, which is fine.
Hmm.
And that's okay. And but to me, in my life, I've decided that I see it in a much more negative connotation.
Yeah.
And so, what I like about this quote is that I personally have suffered a lot in my life, and I think we all do.
Yeah.
But the insight of it all is that um, I now choose um, to see suffer as something that is really a choice that we as humans do and have. Now, pain is not because life is painful, and not just physical pain, but
Hmm.
the stuff that sometimes I think it gets intertwined. Suffering in this particular video, this person talking a lot about, like, you have to suffer to grow, and I'm like, no, it's pain. That's why they say growing pains, right? Like, so
Yeah.
stuff that is painful, if you lose somebody in your life, if uh, have a breakup of a relationship, if you whatever,
Yeah.
anything, it's a painful situation.
Hmm.
um but we have a choice of how long we actually, or how much we we elevate that pain that
Right.
creates this I like to call it unnecessary suffering. And
Yeah.
so anyway, that really transformed a lot of things for me, so I love that quote, and it's a big mo of mine. So
Mhm. I
that's
love
one.
that. Yeah.
um, the other one comes out of a movie. When people ask me, which just happened last week, I was filming this really cool indie pilot in New York.
Saw
A
it.
lot.
Saw your
Yeah,
post. It's like a lot
you
of
saw some
fun.
of my posts. Yeah, it was
Of
really rad.
course.
I had an incredible time.
Looked
Met a
fun.
lot of everybody on set was really incredible, and there were a
Yeah.
few young actors that reminded me of me, in their early 20s, starting
Mhm.
out, and everybody was so cool. And this particular guy, was like asking me, what's your favorite movie? And I'm like, those questions. We all have so many, but I always like
Yeah.
to say that mainstream studio movies, I'll always go with Titanic, because when I watched it at the time, that was the only movie that I probably watched over 50 times. There's never been a movie I watched so many times. And it
Right.
had a big impact in me and my emotions. And I think, like, as a movie itself, I think it's very cinematically
Yeah.
incredible and a masterpiece.
Mhm.
But then there's a movie I always say that there's only maybe two people in my life that I've said it and they knew it, which I was very surprised. People don't know this movie. Is very, like, it's an indie movie, but that's, I don't know, never got any mainstream attention, called The Peaceful Warrior. And it's based on a book called The Peaceful Warrior's Way, written by Dan Millman. Um, and that movie is incredible. I watched it in my teens when I played tennis, and it has uh, it's about a gymnast. So the main character is an athlete, and it has an incredible, beautiful message, basically about the power of now. Most people know Eckhart Tolle's book called Power of Now, um, but I think you know everybody has heard or read or listened to something related to the power of being in the present moment,
Yeah.
which is what we're all hopefully are in conscious of, or trying to do as much as we can. And so that movie talks a lot about that in a very interesting way. So at the end of the movie, I'm going to give the movie away, but that's a quote that
That's okay.
stayed with me since that time. And I remember very vividly, it wasn't my very first play, but there was a play that I did in Miami in my beginnings, that before I went out on stage, because it's a nerve wracking situation. Um, I would say that quote, every single time. I would repeat it and repeat it in my mind, and it goes like this. I'm gonna forget the order of the thing. Wait, wait. Where are you? Here. It's him talking to himself, basically. So I would ask myself, where are you?
Hmm.
Here. What time is it? Now. What are you? This moment. It's so powerful, because the only thing that really matters, and that's like great for actors, we're all trying to be in the moment, we're all trying to be present, but human beings, it's about this moment right here, right now. And so that stayed with me, and it's an incredible movie. So for those who have never watched it, go check out Peaceful
Yeah,
Warrior.
I just wrote it.
Um, and yeah, let me know after you watch it. But that's a quote that I mean, Dan Millman wrote it, but it's the lead's character's final lines in the movie. And then after that, there's another one out of many that I was thinking about, like in terms of uh, like achievement and doing your best and you know, succeeding in life, whatever it is that one defines as success and being successful. But I've always loved this quote, and it goes like this: "Success is inconvenient." And that was said by Dallas Travers, who at the time in New York was a marketing guru for actors, and yeah, I love that quote a lot because I find it to be so true. Um, in any capacity, like in any profession, there's so many, but especially in the arts, things are, we all want the comfort, and we all want
Yeah,
things to be convenient, but we have to be able and willing to go so much out of our comfort zone to get what we want, and succeed in whichever endeavor we put our hearts to. So
yeah.
those are the three.
I love all of them. You'll have to send me them so I can write them down and paste them. Like I also really like. It's really simple, but I really want. Those like blocks that you can get at like the store that says like quotes on it and like.
Yeah, yeah,
There's one that says "You got this," and I really want that one because it's very like simple and straight to. It's like just go to work, just do it. Like
yeah,
it's very
yeah.
Nike, but like it's
Very
very
Nike. Yeah,
yeah, but it's like you got it. Just go do it, and
sure.
it'll be done with.
Yeah.
My mom always gave me really good advice. Shout out to my mom.
Yes.
Um, I would always, when I was younger, I would always say, "Oh, today's gonna be awful. I have this, I have this, I have this, I have all these things that I don't want to do." And she would always tell me, and I will never forget this: if you say today is gonna suck, then it's gonna suck. If you say today is gonna be good, then it's gonna be good. So I always took that away,
I
and
love your mom.
and it's very impactful. I don't know how, I don't know when she started saying that, but ever since she started saying that, I was like, she was right. Because if
But
you
see, but
choose,
she instilled in you this perspective and this awareness of
mhm,
what we say has so much power, what we think has so much power.
mhm,
And
mhm,
because I'm a sucker for, um, the law of attraction, of manifesting, of like being in control or being in power of our lives and our destinies in many ways, it
yeah,
starts by how we word things. So
mhm,
literally, she, maybe not as conscious about these, things that we have much more information about, but look how beautiful,
yeah,
yeah.
mhm,
And we had to start because there's a famous quote that has to do, I can't remember now if it's Emerson, but you've probably heard of it. Like, if we say you can, you're right. If you say you can't, you're also right. So
mhm,
it's the same
yeah,
thing, right? Like,
yeah. It's the same concept. Yeah,
concept, yeah.
it's definitely interesting. And she's always told me that, and I'm like, as a kid, I didn't think anything of it because I was like, I was like 12, so I was like, whatever, But I get older, and I'm like, my mom was right about everything.
See?
I listen,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Um,
Very nice. That's
yeah.
awesome.
Thank you so much, Guy, for taking the time to meet with me and let me talk to you. You know, was really excited to set this up when we were at C2E2. So, shout out to C2E2. If you haven't been to C2E2, you guys, go to C2E2. It's a great Comic Con.
It
Um,
really is.
it really is. So, thank you so much for being here and taking the time out of your day to meet with me. I really appreciate that. It
You're
was lovely.
welcome, Nick. You're
Hmm.
welcome, really. It's a pleasure, and I had a great time. And you're an awesome guy, and I have a lot of respect for you, a lot of gratitude. You've been such a great supporter of the company, but also of my work, and that means a lot. And you're just, you're a nice person, and I wish you the best, and I'm really happy that this worked out. And yeah, man, we'll continue the journey, and I'll see you soon.